One thing to remember, even if the initiative reaches its goal and moves on to the next step, that's when we can start looking deeper into these concerns. The initiative is to open the door for change, not write out exactly what will be changed. Stop killing games. What does it mean? What is it about? And what's with all the drama with pirate software? That's what this video is mainly about. And I do want to say up front, I'm not here to pile on to meaningless drama. What I want to do is constantly challenge the games industry to push forward, innovate, and make decisions that are mutually beneficial, both where these games generate money that keeps the lights on and can be invested into better servers, game engines, anti-cheat solutions, and so on, while also providing options to preserve the customer's purchases and to some extent experiences. So what is Stop Killing Games? In short, Stop Killing Games asks the question, can publishers delete games you paid for? And for most people, the knee-jerk reaction to that question is no. Of course, there's more nuance and plenty of case-by-case basis to worry about. However, as it stands right now, there is no legislation anywhere in the world that prevents publishers like Ubisoft, EA, Treyarch, and so on from removing their games, leaving them entirely disabled with no way at all for the community to rebuild and have a preserved version of what customers have paid for. Even Activision going out of the way to file cease and desist forms against anyone who dares make a modded version of Call of Duty. While a lot of older games can be saved, we're in a transitional period where just about any game you buy today from AAA publishers requires an always online connection for access to the game. We even see this with the Nintendo Switch 2, where you don't technically even own the hardware, and Nintendo is treating it more as a license to use the Switch 2 for Nintendo services, rather than a piece of hardware that plays Nintendo games. But that's a discussion for another time. When games require an always online connection, the future for that game is in question, even if it has single-player components. Whenever the publisher decides they want to delist the game and shut down those authentication servers, that could also mean the entire game can no longer be accessed by the customer. This is what happened with Ubisoft's racing game, The Crew. But hey, at least you can buy the sequels and probably expect Ubisoft to delete those too at some point. The solution on paper should be simple. Patch out the online requirements and allow users to access the game and enjoy. However, we can't even do that with The Crew, as the game is just not accessible at all without connecting to Ubisoft servers. And while the solution on paper seems straightforward, coding games is not that simple. An effort would have to be made from the beginning of development to allow these games to be playable offline. But it is an effort that every development team should make and something to keep in mind when developing games. As money hungry as these publishers are, when they smell blood in the water with the profits drying up, they could start preparing for this and begin that process of removing the online functionality months if not an entire year before they even announce a shutdown. While it does take effort and foresight to get it done, we've also seen publishers do things like provide a free HD remaster upgrade for BioShock 1 and 2. Cyberpunk 2077 has been receiving updates post-launch that aren't exclusively tied to their paid DLC, and more. While these examples are not converting an always online game to function offline, I would argue some of these endeavors took more time and effort than what this initiative is asking for from the average game. I could see this also going against the right to repair, but that's probably not applicable in this situation for reasons I don't care to know. Imagine buying a car, and after 10 years, the company flips a switch and now the entire car is gone. Not just the engine, not just the heated seats. There's nothing to repair because the entire thing is gone. And following up that analogy, I know there are people who will say these games won't feel the same, especially in MMOs, and the experience won't be great. Of course, that kind of goes without saying. And just like older cars and specialized cars, not all of them are street legal and can only be driven in designated areas or racetracks. The same way an old retired MMO can run on a private server. It's going to cost money to do it, but it can still be done. And once players have access to the game's files, the entire game can be rebalanced by the community for online or offline play, so that's not even a problem. A lot of these discussions I see going against the Stop Killing Games initiative constantly puts the cart before the horse. The game is imbalanced for single player. The game doesn't exist, so there's no way to fix that, either by devs or the community. There's concerns about IP preservation. There are plenty of mods for just about any game out there that violates IP, and unless it's Nintendo, you're usually good to go. In the same way, these games can be modded to remove and replace whatever IP the publisher is concerned about if they care that much. There's concerns about security with these private servers. That hasn't stopped many older multiplayer games from having community-driven private servers, as well as having smaller servers that are password protected that only a few people have access to. Not to mention games like Minecraft that thrive on custom servers. And if that's such a big concern, then the publisher can provide an option to rent servers. I wouldn't mind that, but at the same time, I can see that being abused by publishers. Sure, you can keep playing this game with private servers, but the price to rent one is going to be $10,000 a month. That's the same loophole companies like Apple use with right to repair. Sure, you can get your iPad repaired, but it's going to cost the same price as a brand new one. There are hurdles and things developers would have to take care of that allow these games to work offline. But to just outright say, no, we're not going to make any effort to fix this, is something I can't agree with. And that's how Pirate Software's message about this sounds like. The drama. Yes, I'm going to talk about it. A lot of people hate Pirate Software. A lot of people hate certain channels and content creators. While I do have my own short list, I don't really care about that. I care more about people who have knowledge and understanding of the topic at hand and what their insight is, even if I disagree with it. Pirate Software should have been a really good source for this topic. Not only is he against the initiative, but he also originally misrepresented what the initiative was about, and to this day, I don't know exactly why he's against it. I watched his original videos about the topic, I read a handful of his tweets. I still don't know what's so mind-bendingly difficult for developers to take some time and make sure their games will be available offline as part of an end-of-life or end-of-support plan. Let me be clear, I want to know what those roadblocks are. Pirate Software is one of the best sources, like it or not, to explain what they are, and he failed at that. He failed to understand the intent of the initiative and would rather see it burn than provide an alternative, or any additional material that could have been used to benefit the initiative in a way that would be fair for both developers and customers. He, for whatever reason, refuses to talk with Ross, who started the initiative. And no, I don't count the short back and forth they had on Twitter. Pirate Software is not the end-all be-all source he may think he is, but he has a very large platform to actually sit down and discuss it. Yet he'd rather let those discussions be a one-way street. Once again, not counting tweets that less than half of his viewing audience is going to see. Even with all of that, I still look forward to his insight and viewpoints regardless. He's a flawed human being. We all are. If you can't tolerate his flaws, that's perfectly fine. I know I'm not going to agree with everything he says, and I'm not going to watch every video he puts out. I'm willing to look past that in hopes of a resolution, and at the very least, a better understanding of the game industry and everything involved with it. For some reason, Pirate Software forgot that part, or he probably felt like he didn't need to explain in detail what those challenges are. One thing to remember, even if the initiative reaches its goal and moves on to the next step, that's when we can start looking deeper into these concerns. The initiative is to open the door for change, not write out exactly what will be changed. With that in mind, every game publisher is going to fight this and drag this out for as long as possible. Let the publishers fight this and provide counter-arguments. The same way we saw with Epic versus Apple. Things did change, and Epic won parts of their argument, not the entire thing. This initiative going through doesn't guarantee anything, only a chance that something might change. And if history is anything to go by, there will still be plenty of loopholes and technicalities that will allow every company to simply ignore whatever legislation does get pushed through. Like I said earlier, everything I've heard going against it are all problems the community can solve afterwards when the game is already preserved. Don't expect me to keep making videos on Pirate Software. This isn't that kind of channel. But if you want to preserve games and see the industry from a pro-consumer perspective, you may want to stick around. I'll also provide links to the costs, and a recent video that can provide a lot more context to what the goals are for this initiative in the comments below. Much like Ross, I don't care for drama, just clarity and preserving video games.